Good morning again. Let's begin again with a few breaths. So if you will, exhale, take a deep breath in, and let it go. Another deep breath in, and let it go. One more deep breath. Breathe in, and let go. I love it when we breathe together. It just reminds me when I hear all of that collective breath breathing at once that there's only one of us being breathed through all of us. You know, I often say in my prayers that I am breathed by God, right? And God is what I want to talk about today. Yay. Imagine that. Because, you know, we're at the beginning of a year and we're entering into a new theme. This year's theme, by the way, is living out loud. Woo! Right? And so throughout the year, I'm going to be inviting you, what is it that you want to live out loud? What quality, what shift, what purpose are you willing to just take on as yours and live it out loud in the world? But we need to get all the way back to the source of all things in order to go anywhere else after that, which is God. And as a philosophy student, one of the things that I learned early in my education is we can't have a conversation about anything until we define what we're talking about, right? And, you know, many of us come here from different spiritual traditions or non-spiritual traditions or whatever other traditions we come from. And so there's probably, you know, 60 of us, 50 of us in this room right now, and there's probably about that many different definitions of what that G word means, sitting right here, right? Some of us love it, some of us are like, oh no, that word. And we have a lot of associations with it, right? We all have stories about what this word means. And here, in Centers for Spiritual Living, in this center, when I say God, I'm not referring to a noun. I'm not referring to a person. I'm not referring to something outside of yourself. I'm referring to a process, to something that is happening in motion. Yeah. I believe God is a verb. God is something that is unfolding. God is evolution. God is life. God is creation. God is thought. God is experience, right? And Ernest Holmes, the founder of this philosophy, uses diddle-umpteen synonyms for this word. He'll say God, spirit, consciousness, mind, universe, life, energy, and he'll just keep going and going before he gets on to his next point. Because he wants us to understand that what he's talking about is a concept bigger than many of us have inherited. This is an evolution of the concept of God, right? And I want to read to you a little bit of Ernest Holmes, because some of you are familiar with the Science of Mind textbook, which is a very large book with hundreds and hundreds of pages of Ernest Holmes talking about this thing. And what I want you to know is that the first 4 chapters, or the first 86 pages of the Science of Mind textbook, are basically the philosophy in a nutshell. The other 300 and something pages after that is all commentary and poetry. And so there's a lot more there, but it's kind of traditional in Science of Mind centers to take the first month of the year and kind of just get back to some of the basic principles. Let's just get back to those first 4 chapters and talk about what's really in there. And there's a section in the chapter called What It Does that I've always had quite an affinity for, and I probably read it to you at least once a year. And so we're just going to read a couple pieces of this, and I want us to think about it. Because this idea of God that he's talking about is consciousness, is what he often calls the universal mind, is indeed the thing that is looking through my eyes and speaking right now, the same thing that's hearing it through each one of you, okay? And he says, the universal mind contains all knowledge. It is the potential ultimate of all things. To it, all things are possible. So, the universal mind contains all knowledge. It is the potential ultimate of all things, and to it, all things are possible. In the universe, anything is possible. Think about just the fact that we live in a multiverse that is potentially infinite. It means that anything that could be is somewhere, right? Within the mind of the universe, anything is possible. But then he says, to us, as much is possible as we can conceive. So suddenly, we've taken all that is, and now what only becomes available to what we can conceive of, to what mental constructs, to what beliefs, to what ideas we have about how that works. That then gives you the measure of what's available to you. He says, should all of the wisdom of the universe be poured over us, we should yet only receive that which we are ready to understand. Uh-oh. And he says then, this is why some draw on one type of knowledge and some another, but all from the same source. The source of all knowledge. And then he says, the scientist discovers the principle of their science. The artist embodies the spirit of their art. The saint draws Christ into their being. All because they have courted the particular presence of some definite concept. Each state of consciousness taps into the same source, but has different receptivity. Each receives what they ask for, according to their ability to embody. The universe is infinite. The possibility of differentiating is limitless. And the thing that I really love about this section is where he talks about how the scientist is drawing the principle of the science, and the artist is embodying their art, and the saint is embodying the Christ consciousness. The thing that says to me is that each one of us then has the opportunity to choose which piece of this great infinite possibility we're going to be the channel for. Right? And when we focus and when we study and when we give our attention to a particular principle or a particular concept, that thing then starts to awaken in us and become something in the world. Right? And so in this idea of living out loud, I've been thinking a lot about this idea of what if each one of us really could grasp, actually start to understand that we are a funnel through which the allness of possibility comes through the uniqueness that each one of us is and then becomes actuality in the world. Like, does that blow your mind? Yes. Like, because if it's not, I need to say this again. Right? Like the entirety of all that is possible, the infinite universe is available to each one of us. All that is possible. We are drawing on that source, and through us, we are channeling that energy into the world. And it's through our thought, it's through our attention, it's through our participation in life, it's through the things that we choose to give our attention and our energy to, that creation itself is flowing through us into the world. Like, it's kind of mind-blowing if we actually let it in, right? And the thing that can get either more mind-blowing or a little bit disturbing and confusing is the fact that if this one mind holds all possibility, all that is, everyone who has ever lived, is living, or will live is a manifestation of this one consciousness. Everything that is happening is its embodiment, is its life force unfolding. And so it's really easy for us to say that when we're saying namaste to each other and the people we see in this place, and when we see creation happening in ways that we like. But it's like, do you get that the same consciousness that manifested as Jesus is the same consciousness that manifested as Hitler? Yes. And that back of that, underneath what we see in the world, is a pure oneness. And it's neutral. It funnels through like electricity funnels into an object. It, God, this infinite consciousness, is just here to express and evolve. And through the laws of the universe, it enacts whatever it is told to enact. Whatever seed thoughts we put into the universe, it will just say yes to. Right? Which puts this incredible responsibility on each one of us. When we realize that God doesn't have a preference, but we sure do. Right? Because I personally don't like being in pain. I personally really do not love the fact that the environment is collapsing around me, and who knows what this planet's going to look like when I'm 85, right? Like, those things are hard to look at. But then when I realize that I have the entire power of evolution and creation and all of the consciousness of the universe behind me, I can be a place where something new happens. Yes. I can be a place where change takes place. I can be a place where new creation emerges, where new thoughts and new possibilities come into the world. And it means that we have this opportunity to find in ourselves that there is something within us that is greater than, bigger than, beyond anything that can come our way. What if the consciousness that is inside of us is that much greater than any of the problems that are in front of us? And we have to recognize that there is a mind available that contains all knowledge, all possibility. So when we look at what seems insurmountable, when we look at what seems unsolvable, we can remember that there is something available to us that has the answer. And it can come through us, but we have to choose to do so. We have to choose to be the place of opening. And each one of us has to find what is ours to do. What is it that's seeking to come through you, that you are the only way that can come into the world? Because the future that we need, the planet that we love, it needs us. Right? It needs each one of us to find what is ours to do. And we can each choose that for ourselves. In my synthesis classes, I invite people to take on a project, right? It's what's the thing that you are working on, that you are focusing on, that you want support around, that is yours to do, and claim it. And the thing that I love about my synthesis community is that I know what every single person's project is. So when we come up to talk to each other, it's like, how's that thing going that you're working on? How is that evolution? How is that action? Are you making forward movement on it? What do you need help with? Because we know what it is. And in this year of living out loud, what I want to invite from each one of us is to find the quality, to find the cause, to find the purpose, to find the action, to find the change that we want to be committed to making. And then what if this was a place where you could walk into any one person and be like, what is it that you're living out loud this year? What if that was the one icebreaker that you knew you could ask anybody here? Right? What are you living out loud this year? How is it going? Maybe there's other people here who are choosing to work on the same thing that you are. You could become support to each other. We can find out what that is and create circles where we can support each other in the work that we're doing. Right? And so let us begin to really think about what is it. You know, Ernest Holmes talks about, in the analogy he's using of individuals courting a particular concept. Right? We don't have a God outside of ourselves like a deity to fall in love with that other traditions might. But what if we said, I want to fall in love with beauty. I want to fall in love with justice. I want to learn to express possibility. Right? Sky, one of our practitioners, is a great example of how to chew on these ideas. Sky came to me a while ago and she said, I'm going to begin to contemplate beauty. And so then every time I saw her, I said, how's that beauty contemplation going? You know, and she'd tell me about how it was showing up in her life and how she was seeing it in different ways and how she was understanding that beauty was leading her to awe and awe was leading her to God, right? And then a number of months later, she says, you know, I think I've kind of moved on from this, but I just can't stop creating art. And I said, I don't think you've moved on from the beauty thing, Sky. I think you've contemplated it so hard it's coming out of you. Right? And that's what I want to see for each one of us, is claim the thing that you are going to court, that you're going to ask and contemplate and deepen into until it starts to ooze from you. Right? And then we walk in the world, and that's how we be the healers and the change makers and the shift agents that the world needs. But each one of us has to claim what channel we are going to be and learn how to open ourselves to allow that to come through us everywhere we go, in everything that we do. So that's our invitation. We're going to keep chewing on this. But what I want you to think about this week, and as we move into the rest of what we're doing, is really start to ask yourself, what is it that I am feeling called to live out loud? What is it that I want to contemplate so much that it becomes me? And in that is exactly what the world needs from you. So take a deep breath in and let go. Breathe in again. Let it go. And really just breathe it. Let it land. Breathe in and let go. And as we breathe together, as each one of us moves into the rhythm and the flow of our own breath, let us each be reminded that we are being breathed by something greater than ourselves. The universe itself is alive. That there is one infinite consciousness, one seamless presence that is living and breathing throughout the entirety of the universe, perhaps the multiverse, perhaps all of possible reality, one thing, one consciousness, one life force. I call it God. But we can call it universal spirit, infinite mind, the divine heart, or simply just the one. But let us remember that that one holds all possibility. And as we are part of it, we are the way that it expresses and chooses. We are the place where the possible becomes actual. Let each one of us commit right here and now to become an opening for possibility, to claim what is ours to do, what is ours to hold, what door is ours to open, what questions are ours to ask, and to begin a life that is wholly focused on courting a concept, a principle, an idea, a way of being that is greater than we are, and allow it to become us. Let each one of us be the place where evolution is actively happening, and where we bring that truth, that shift, that change, that example of possibility into the world, into our families, into our greater community, into the shifting, changing planet, the life, the love that surrounds us. And so let us just be in gratitude here and now for this place, for these people, for the opportunity to be supported in saying yes to something more. And let us learn to lean into that, to live into that, and to fall in love with the process, and to fall in love with each other as we go down this road together. And so for all of this and so much more, I just give it my yes. And what I know here and now is that there is a power for good in this universe that is greater than we are, and yet it is who we are. And so let us surrender to that knowing and let that something more move through us in everything we do. And so we just say yes. And so it is.